Hey, how we doing? I'm just getting everything set up. Hi, how are we? I'm going to try and write a game. Let me turn the music off. I don't know how this is going to go. um, for those who don't know, I assume you know why you're here, but I am launching a Kickstarter tomorrow for a new printing of The Wretched, and I promised that if we hit 300 followers on Kickstarter, I would try and write a Wretched Alone game on stream. Um, so that's what I'm going to try and do today. I don't know how this is going to go. Um, I've never tried writing something with an audience before. It might be really shit. This game's either going to fall out of my head or we're going to sit here for 3 hours while I pull my hair out. But what the fuck, eh? Let's see what we can do. I've got some reference material. I spent yesterday kind of planning what I was going to do as far as subject matter and doing some research and stuff. And I'll probably edit this down and release it as an episode of the Wretched Cast podcast as well, because why not, you know? But the VOD will be on YouTube and everything as well. So I've got some reference material with me. I've got The Wretched, the original printing. I've got Go Alone, my other Wretched Alone game, because even though I even though I came up with the format for these games, so technically I should know what I'm doing to write one. Helps to have something to hand to look back at. I've also got Spencer Campbell's Rigged, which is a really, really nicely printed book. It's really, really good. Get a copy of this if you haven't got it already. So the game that I want to write is about witches and witch trials. I don't have a title for it yet. I want to write a game where you are a witch. Afternoon, how are you doing? Thank you for joining me. I've got the chat on my phone because I've only got one monitor, so if I miss anything it's because I'm not actually looking at my phone. I'm sorry. I'll do my best to keep an eye on it. Thanks for being here. So, what was I saying? God, I'm bad at streaming. Game about witch trials. You are a witch, or you're a woman accused of being a witch, and you're on trial. And the journal that you create as part of the game will be your testimony, basically. So I spent yesterday reading all sorts of accounts of like the Pendle witches, which happened not far from here actually, and like the Scottish witch trials and all that sort of stuff. I've also got some witch-related game books as reference. I don't even know if I'll look at them, but I've got Luca Rejec's Witchburner, and I've got Behind Closed Doors from Best Left Buried here as well. I actually think Behind Closed Doors is one that I'll use as a reference for like layout. We probably won't do any layout on this today because I've got to write the damn thing. But yeah, that's a really nicely presented book. So when I get round to actually having finished writing this, I think this is a book I'm going to look to for layout tips, definitely. Um, so I'm just going to kind of jump into it, basically. It's a very boring blank page we've got here, but yeah, the purpose of this, basically, I don't know whether we'll get a finished game out of this stream or not, like I said, but some people said that it'll be interesting to see how I go about writing these things, so yeah, that's what we're going to do. So first thing I'm going to do is make my font size a bit bigger, just so that you can see what's going on, I guess. The first thing I do when I write these games, and this is kind of how I write most things, I like to make it, what's the word I'm looking for? I like to play with structures, and I basically like to almost turn it into a paint by numbers and just fill in the blanks. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my headers in place. The Wretched uses the headers who, what, how, and then begin, and the day. I can't type. And then it gets into the operations manual, which is the Oracle, and it goes hearts. I think the order I did it in was hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades, but we'll mix it around. So before I write anything, one thing I thought about this game is, because we're dealing with witchcraft and magic, I actually don't want to use a standard deck of cards. I think I want to use a deck of tarot cards, which introduces a couple of differences. Firstly, the suits are obviously different. So I think in tarot, your hearts is wands. No, it's not. It's cups, isn't it? Hearts is cups. Wands is clubs. And then I think diamonds is pentacles or coins, but we're going to use pentacles because we're writing a game about witchcraft. And spades is swords. And in the minor arcana, you've also got 54 cards. I don't like the order these are in. I don't know why the order these are in actually matters, but I don't like it. I like to go black, red, so we'll do that. Before I write anything else, I like to get the actual cards laid out, because the bulk of these games is the Oracle, right? That's where most of the game actually happens. So we've got ace, then we've got 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to read out every number. One of the differences with the minor arcana between the minor arcana and a normal deck of cards is that the jack in a normal deck of cards is an amalgamation of 2 cards in the minor arcana, which are the page and the knight, and then you've got the queen and the king. So one thing I'm going to have to do when we jump back up to how to actually play the game is, not everyone has a deck of tarot cards, so we'll have to come up with some way of doing it with a deck of standard cards, and I think the answer is just, if you draw a jack, take either the page or the knight prompt, or both, whichever you like, and that'll solve that problem. And the first thing I do when I write these games is literally copy and paste all the cards down, because then you've got a nice visual reference for how much more of the game you actually have to write. And then I just start writing, basically. I think the key to writing anything is to just start and not worry about whether it's shit or not. Reading through The Wretched and Go Alone again yesterday, the who and the what sections kind of repeat some information, and I might just cut that first section out and roll it all into what. So for the time being, we'll call the game The Trial, and we might come up with another title later on. We probably will. So how does The Wretched start? The Wretched starts in the what section as: The Wretched is a game about human resilience in the face of overwhelming odds and almost certain death. It is a game about isolation, fear, and perseverance. And Go Alone starts with: Go Alone is a game about isolation, abandonment, decay, and the slow passage of time. It's a game about identity, loss, and regrets, and the desire to be more than the world says you are meant to be. I might just steal from the Wretched to get things started. So the trial is a game about human. I can't type. Human resilience in the face of overwhelming odds and almost certain death, because it is, right? If you're accused of witchcraft in the 15th century, you're probably gonna die. I might even get into some of the difference between witches and cunning folk. Maybe we'll see what the scope of this game is as we write it. It's one of those things where I read a lot and did a lot of research, and it's all just kind of sitting in my brain, waiting to come out in some form. So we'll see what comes out as we write it. It is a game about being separated. This is a bit like, when you write an essay and you write an introduction last after you've written the whole thing. I sometimes feel like this is what I should do with these games, but I'm going to write the introduction first and then we'll come back to it later on. So it's a game about being separated from a community you loved. It's weird to be reading it aloud as I type as well. Isolated and singled out and called witch, traitor, demon. And I stress that this is first draft. So if this is shit, this is just what my first drafts look like. I like 3-sentence paragraphs for this kind of stuff. It is a game about fear, both yours and that of those around you. It's a game about not being believed. One of the things that Jammy, Temporal Hiccup on Twitter, pointed out is that the Wretched, it lies to you, and the game hides that, and I don't want to do that in this case, because witch trials were things that happened to real people, and they were not believed, and they were given false hope, and I want the player going into this game to be aware of that from the start, so we're going to put all this up front. Okay, so next paragraph is who you are, basically. Now, women and men were accused of witchcraft, but we're going to make the player a woman in this game, because then we can tackle some themes like the way society views and treats women. All this is going to have to go into quite robust safety warnings, I think, but we'll get to that. In fact, we should add, after how to play, or maybe even before how to play, we should add a section on safety. Okay, so no, don't want bold. You play a woman accused of witchcraft. Do we want to lean into it? Do we want to say that you have practiced magic? Or maybe let the player decide that? I think for now we'll let the player decide whether they actually have practiced magic or not. That might change as we write the prompts, but we'll see. I think it's much easier for me to just type and then read after I've typed. You play a woman accused of witchcraft. Whether you have practiced magic or not is up to you, as is whether you will confess to it. You know that the odds are stacked against you and that your chances of surviving the trial are infinitely slim. So the Pendle Witches, I actually went up to Lancaster last month and went round the castle where they were held and where the trial took place. I didn't know I was going to write this game then, but it's nice to have that experience to draw on. They were held in a dungeon in Lancaster for 5 months before their trial happened. Um, so yeah, we'll put that into the game, I think. Ooh, I can nick another line from the Wretched here. One of my favourite things that I wrote in the Wretched was, where is it? You are existing on the edges of your endurance, high on adrenaline and fear and desperation. You are sure you won't survive this, but all you know to do is to keep fighting. So I think I'm going to steal that almost whole cloth. Because it's accurate for this as well. Can't spell. So you have been held for days and weeks, treated worse than the lowest animal. You are existing on the edges of your endurance, high on adrenaline and fear and desperation. You are sure you won't survive this, but all you know how to do is to tell your story and hope, even when you have stopped being sure whether the story you are telling is true or not. I mean, that's all. This section of the game is there to tell the player what the game is and get them into character and into the headspace. And one of the most effective ones from the jam is Before the Dawn. It's written amazingly, and reading that opening section really gets you into the role of this awful monster. But Alex writes better than I do, basically. I also like to put what the game is inspired by. I like to draw on non-gaming references for this stuff, to give people like a touchstone. So the Wretched says at the end of this section it's inspired by the music and films of John Carpenter, the music of Nine Inch Nails, as well as You Are Not Alone in This Life and You Will Die Alone Out Here in the Black by Auden Roswell, which are both great games. And Go Alone is inspired by Jack Harrison's Artifact and Jason Morningstar's The Skeletons, but also influenced by the music of Spectral Kingdom, Thief, Daniel Deluxe, and the soundtracks to all the Legend of Zelda games. So what's some media that's going to inform this design? It's a good witch hunt film. Ooh, Three Sovereigns for Sarah. I just got a Shudder subscription. I've been watching loads of horror as well, which helps. And Jeanette Winterson's The Daylight Gate, which is explicitly about the Pendle Witches. I actually read The Crucible on Friday, and I watched The Witch last week. I haven't seen Three Sovereigns for Sarah in a long time, but I'm going to throw that in there anyway because I like threes. And I should really reread The Daylight Gate, but I have read it not a long time ago. I'm going to put some of the research I did in as well, just so that players are aware that this is drawing on real things that happened. There we go. The Trial, working title, is inspired by media like The Witch, The Crucible, Three Sovereigns for Sarah, and Jeanette Winterson's The Daylight Gate. It is also informed by researching the Pendle Witch trials, which took place barely 40 miles from my childhood home and informed a huge part of my early education and interests. I think I'm going to put bibliography in this game, you know, like further reading, an Appendix N, if you like. Oh, sorry, I didn't realise you can't actually see what I'm writing. I'm going to try and keep an eye on that, but if it disappears off the screen, let me know. What's the website for the Pendle Witches? I think it's just handle, which is .co.uk. Yes, cool. Or consult. Cool, that's our introduction written. Next step, we'll come back to the safety tools because I don't actually know what's going to be in the game yet. It seems silly to write a safety warning for something that doesn't exist yet. The other thing I was thinking is that I don't want to use a Jenga tower for this game. I want to do something different. I did a little bit of pre-planning for this just because I didn't want to sit here trying to figure out a mechanic, so I decided I wanted to use candles or just something a bit more thematic than a Jenga tower. And what I settled on was a bag full of markers, like stones or something, with one that's visibly different, like one stone painted red, and you'll draw from the bag rather than pulling from the tower. It just seems a little more thematic, and yeah, I don't know, Jenga just doesn't feel like a good fit for this one for some reason. So, next section is how to play the game. So, to play, some people aren't going to want to use tarot for a game because some people take that shit seriously, which is fair. So we'll acknowledge that. Even though tarot were originally used for tarot games, I think, before they became like a divination tool. But anyway. Has that disappeared off the screen? Sorry, I've got a tiny little view of what you can see here, so I just have to keep an eye on whether you can actually see what I'm writing or not. I almost want to do something with the jokers, because you got the Fool in the tarot that you could use as well. I can't think what mechanic would fit this game using the jokers. Maybe that'll come to us later. That says anti, not any. My typing is already deteriorating. Okay, so to play you'll need the minor arcana from a deck of tarot cards. If you do not have access to tarot cards or would rather not use them to play a game, you can use a standard deck of 52 playing cards with the jokers removed. If you do this, anytime you draw a jack, you may choose the page or knight prompt that you like best, or use both. Nice and easy. You will also need a 6-sided die and 10 tokens of some kind. The Wretched recommends like nuts and bolts, and I can't remember what I recommended for Go Alone. Handful of small stones and rocks, grimy old coins, or dirt encrusted gemstones, but anything will work. So for witchcraft, you also need a 6-sided die and 10 tokens of some kind. These should preferably be a collection of twigs, nuts and berries, or small sharp objects like nails, tacks or pins. Hey Carlos, how you doing? Thank you for popping along. So yeah, 25 to 30. So right, sorry, my brain's running ahead of me here. I should explain what I'm doing. Getting rid of the Jenga tower. During Wretched Jam, we figured out, when I was writing the Wretched, the average number of pulls from a Jenga tower before it collapses is somewhere between 21 to 30. So if we've got a bag and we've got one unique marker in it, if we have 25 to 30 things in it, then you've got roughly the same number of turns before that marker comes out, roughly the same odds. Sort of. It's not ideal because you've got a 1 in 30 chance that decreases rather than, I don't know how to phrase this. I'm not good at probability in the language of probability. The probability curve of drawing tokens from a bag looks different to the probability curve of a Jenga tower. But numerically it sort of lines up, and that's all I care about, to be honest. Like, there's a chance that you pull the red marker out first turn, but there's a chance that you knock the Jenga tower over first turn as well. The other thing, like with the Wretched, we pre-pull some blocks to make the tower wobble a bit, but we won't do that with this. We just won't do that. Yeah. Spelling, Chris. There we go. So finally you'll need a bag container. I said finally, it's not finally because you need the journal. But anyway, finally you'll need a bag containing 25 to 30 identical markers plus one that differs visually in some way but cannot be identified by touch alone. You may use coins with one marked with an X, a selection of stones with one painted red, or anything else you can think of. You may wish to burn some incense while you play. I can smell incense from my next door neighbour. So, the final thing with the Wretched Alone game is the journal. Wretched was voice recordings because it's in fitting with the genre. Doesn't really work for a game about medieval witchcraft. The same debate of trying different mechanics for randomizing results. Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? What I'm kind of focusing on here is that the game isn't about... It's not about the odds of success. In fact, it's explicitly not about that. So I'm not hugely concerned with probability. It's about the story that you tell. A few of the games in the Jam got away with the Jenga tower, did away with the Jenga tower and everything completely. And I'm almost tempted to do that here. I'll think about that while we write it. I might just get rid of that mechanic entirely. So, the journal is going to be basically the transcripts of the trial. Now, the transcripts that we have of the Pendle Witch trials are interesting because they're not... This was, what, 500 years ago? The relationship between like reporting and truth was different, and the transcripts aren't verbatim records of what was said during the trial. And there's some discussion about how they almost reflect an idealized, like, storified version of it. So I think we're going to lean into that and encourage the player to make stuff up, or yeah. Lost my train of thought. I'm just going to write, and we'll get back to that if we do. Some part. Do I want to ask the player to edit the transcript? Like, my brain just went, some parts of the game might ask you to edit or expunge entries from the record. I'm going to put that in. What I'm going to do is highlight that in yellow, just to remind myself that it's there, because we may not use that. We'll see what happens when I come to writing the prompts. Cool. You also need some way to record your game. Writing works best, creating a physical written record of your trial and testimony. Some parts of the game may ask you to edit or expunge entries from the record. Maybe. You are, of course, free to play the game however you wish. You may want to keep an audio log of your testimony, record your trial via Twitter, or by any other means you see fit. And then if I remember right, the next thing is about how to win and how to lose, right? The Wretched. Yeah, there are only 2 positive ways out of this situation, etc. So... cannot spell today. I'm not sure how I feel about that sentence. There are only 2 positive ways out of this situation. First, you could convince those who have made accusations against you that you are innocent, and that will be the Ace of Hearts mechanic. Second, you could implicate someone else in the crimes that have been placed at your feet and do such a convincing job that they are held accountable instead of you. So that is like, so the Wretched says that you could fix your engines, and you can't. There's no mechanic in the game for you to fix your engines. Now with this, I think we will write into the prompts that you name someone else, but I don't think it's going to be an actual win condition. Like, we're still going to lie to the player a little bit. We're just going to be a bit more honest about the fact that we're lying in the safety tools and everything. You can fail in a multitude of ways. Cool. I do want to get to the safety. I do want to do the safety tools actually, because that will help me think about the content of the game before we actually get to writing it. So can't spell. Cool. So most people accused of being witches probably weren't practicing witchcraft, and in England there was a distinction between witches, practitioners of black magic, and cunning folk, who were practitioners of white magic, who often helped track down and fight those believed to be witches, which is true. Again, this is all first draft, and a lot of this will get cut in editing, I think. It's also the kind of thing where I may want to get some kind of sensitivity reader. Maybe someone who knows a little bit more about witchcraft and this kind of stuff than I do. Just to look over this historical part of it. So just being completely upfront about the game, the fact that the game probably isn't winnable. In fact, that should stand alone and on its own paragraph. In reality, once you were accused of being a witch, there was very little you could do to disprove the allegations. This game explores that. While the mechanics of the game offer hope and salvation, it is highly unlikely that anything you say or do in play will lead to that conclusion. And then we'll get into some actual concrete safety warnings. So the game also deals with other themes that may be upsetting or harmful for some players. These include, I can't spell, these include, but are not limited to, let's see, bodily harm, threats of violence probably. So this is me thinking about the kinds of things that are going to form the prompts. Questioning your memories and perceptions of your own reality, I think, is an important one, because we're going to have the witch testifying about their own actions and behaviours, and have characters in this game who are explicitly accusing them of things they haven't done, and we're going to ask the player to account for things that they not necessarily. We're going to ask the player to account for things that they may or may not have done. I think that's an important thing to be upfront about. There was often, during witch trials, there was often a physical examination to look for things called teats and marks of witchcraft. So I think we're going to have to mention that. Invasive medical procedures performed against your will. Torture. We won't be explicit about it, but we will mention it, and it'll be up to the player how much they engage with that. But I think that theme is going to be in the game. And religiously motivated violence. There we go. The game also deals with the persecution and objectification of women by men, and while it doesn't explicitly contain sexual violence or assault, it does touch on sexual themes. And that's a decision we're making early on to make the character female, and explore some of the reasons why these women were accused of witchcraft. God, this could be a really dark game, and I'm going to do my best to make sure it's not very problematic. I enjoyed a lot of the thread that you QRT'd some time ago about the safety tools from... Yeah, they're really important. It's something I learned during the jam, that safety tools are really fucking important. And Luciella Scarlett said that they actually think it's more important in a solo game sometimes because you're so invested in it. And it can sometimes be harder to say to yourself, no, I'm going to stop playing this, than to say to a group of people, I need to tap out. So yeah. and this is the final part of all the safety tools I write these days, that you're more important than the game. I think it's important to give the player explicit permission to stop playing. The trial explicitly places the player in the role of a woman who has been accused of heinous acts, who is at the mercy of people who will go to any end to see her confess. If at any point a prompt crosses into territory you would rather not explore, put it aside and do not engage with it. If the game becomes too much for you for any reason, walk away. This is a story, and you are more important than it. One of the things that I saw some people doing with their safety tools in these games was, if you don't want to engage with the prompt, put it to one side and then draw a block from the tower. And I see why people did that, but I don't want to do that because that feels like punishing the player for not wanting to engage with some of the content, and I don't want to do that. Okay, let's set the game up. Fill the bag with markers, ensuring that one is marked as different in some way. Shake them up and place the bag to one side, being certain that you can't see its contents. So that's the equivalent of setting up the tumbling block tower. This is going to need some editing. So the Wretched was just like, yeah, if the tower collapses, the game's over. And having now played a few games that came after it, having some explicit end of game text, I think is really good. So I've said during the game you'll be asked to pull markers from the bag. If at any point you draw the marker that you're singled out as being different, read the text on page X, whatever page it is. We don't know yet because we're not in layout. Again, Before the Dawn does this, and the ritual that you encounter when the game is over and you die is so fucking good. So we're gonna have something like that in the game. Hearts as cups. The Ace of Hearts is the salvation mechanic, basically the win condition. Yeah, that's the one that we're going to put markers on as we play the game and as we pull prompts. Give yourself a name. And then make the first entry in your transcript using the script below. Okay, what are we going to say to start this game? I'm going to keep it short. not hugely happy with that, but again, we'll come back to it. So the first entry I've written is: My trial begins today. I stand accused of acts heinous and unholy, and I know not how fortune will favour me. Hope seems all but lost. I stand alone in the cold, shut out from the warmth of God's embrace. This is the testimony of your name. If my soul be forfeit, let my words stand in my place. I don't like that last line. But again, first draft, we could either get hung up on it being perfect, or we could just write the fucking thing. The trial is now ready to begin. So that's all the... Wait. No, it's not quite. That's the majority of the setup written. The next thing we need to do is write the actual, like, how you play the game, the format of the trial. What did I just press? So this is where we'll get into that idea of it's not a word for word account of your testimony, right? Not sure about what I've just written. The trial is not a verbatim accounting of every word said during your trial. It takes place during your testimony. It takes place in court documents and written accounts of your questioning and testimony, jumping back and forth as your words and deeds are examined by the judge. Again, something we can come back to. What we're going to call the two phases. In the Wretched, they are the tasks and the log. In Go Alone, they are the adventure and the memory. What does Rigged do? Oh, this layout is so nice in Rigged. The tasks and Run a Net Post. I can't remember what Before the Dawn does. Let me just bring it up. Before the Dawn. Before the Dawn, Instructions in the Stars and the Whispers. Alright, cool. We will have the Inquisition, because that's you being asked questions, and the Record. Yeah. You will face questions from the Inquisition that will ask you to think about the things you stand accused of, and then record what happened in the record. I don't want to say the things that you have done, because we may decide that the player may decide they haven't actually done anything. So one. So this is how you actually play the game. What we're going to call the Oracle. Wretched was the operations manual. Go Alone was... You think I'd be able to remember this from my own fucking game. Go Alone was just the Oracle. Grimoire? No. Book of Shadows. Again, this is something where I may get someone to read over this and see if that is actually a fitting term. Cool, so the Inquisition, step 1, roll your dice and draw that number of cards from the deck, keeping them face down. 2, turn over the first card and consult the Book of Shadows. 3, follow the instructions for each card as you turn them over. 4, when you have completed the cards for this round of questioning, discard them unless instructed otherwise. And then 2, the record. That's not 4, 1 at all, is it? It's 5. I use the word record a lot. That's something I'm going to have to come back to. Book of Shadows is such an ominous name. I know it's a real thing that is associated with witchcraft. I'm not sure whether it's a phrase I should be using or not, but for now we're going to leave it in there. As you write in your transcript, you will build a record of the events of your trial. It is up to you to decide whether this record is an accurate representation of what transpires. Whatever you write, this is how you'll be remembered. Let's just Google Book of Shadows. Blair Witch 2 was called Book of Shadows. A Book of Shadows is a book containing religious text and instructions for magical rituals found within the neo-pagan religion of Wicca and in many pagan practices. One famous Book of Shadows was created by the pioneering Wiccan Gerald Gardner sometime, etc., etc. Okay. I think that's an okay thing to call it. We'll see. We'll get there, right? So let's rename this Book of Shadows and the Markers. This bit goes really fast because it's formulaic for a reason, right? This is the structure of these games, so it's just filling in the mechanics in phrasing that is suitable for the game that you're playing. You could set up a template for this if you wanted. I mean, then all your games would be the same. I like to type it all out and think about it as I'm doing it because it gets me in the mindset to, in the same way that reading it is almost like reading it before you play the game gets you in the mindset to play the game, and I find that writing it gets you in the mindset to write the rest of the game. Consult the Book of Shadows when you draw a card and consider what has been asked of you. Often you'll find yourself remembering the past. Sometimes you'll have to confront accusations levelled against you, whether they are true or not. Other times you'll have to complete a task. What's the end state? What's the tower collapse? It's the judge deciding that they've heard enough, right? Exactly, it's like a warm-up. It gets you flowing. Okay, so what's our end game scene going to be? Sorry, I've gone quiet just because I'm... Okay, there we go. You have lost track of the time spent on this thing. How long did you sit locked in a dungeon with no stars to gaze on, no glimpse of the outside world, no privacy or comfort or cleanliness? And then to be dragged here to this court filled with these men who know nothing of your life, of the desperate struggle for survival that you faced every single day. How many days did they question you? How much was lost to their tortures, their prying and prodding and poking and burning, their inquisition? You knew before this began that there was likely no way out of this that would leave you alive. These men have made their minds up before they even set eyes on you. Guilty, they say. Witch, they say. Hang her, and may God have mercy on her soul. And so you go to your death, but on the gallows you were at least granted some final words, one last bid to be remembered. What will they be? Make one last entry in the record. The game and your life is over. I'm quite happy with that, and this is why we warm up. Because that, of everything I've written so far, that's the bit that I'm happiest with. So, now we get to the meat of the game, right? We start writing the oracle. So the first thing that we do is we need to decide what each suit of cards represents in game terms. Now, I said earlier that I sort of like... So like when I was studying writing, we did like a module in poetry, and we had to write poetry, and the poetry that I was best at writing was stuff like sonnets, because they have a structure and a form, and I work well when I can work within a framework. Even if I break it and tear it apart and do something completely different with it, having that framework there is very useful for me. So maybe, right, we're using tarot, so let's look at tarot card suits meanings. What do the suits actually represent in tarot? Cups represents your feelings, emotions, intuition and creativity. The Cups cards often appear in tarot readings about relationships and your emotional connection with yourself and others. Okay. Pentacles represents your finances, work and material possessions. Okay. Maybe focus on the material part of that, we'll see. Suit of Swords represents your thoughts, words and actions. The Swords cards often appear in readings about communicating your ideas and asserting your power. And Wands represents your energy, motivation and passion. Wands often appear in tarot readings about life purpose, spirituality and new ideas. Okay. And then some things, like the Wretched was easy because it was like the ship, the crew, the monster itself, right? What are 4 things that we can focus on? Sometimes with these prompts there is some overlap between the suits, but it's nice to have a theme. So let's open that again. First one we want to do is Cups, which is heart. Represents your feelings, emotions, intuition and creativity. Readings about relationships and your emotional connection with yourselves and others. Alright, cool. Let's make Cups society. So like you were a part of a society and now you've been singled out as different. You're outcast. Cool. Cups represent the society around you. You were part of it once. Now you are outcast, marked as witch and heretic, and scorned by friends and loved ones. People who you trusted have pointed the finger at you and told tales of the heinous acts you have committed. When you draw a cup, you will examine these relationships head on, what they once were, what they are now, and what caused them to change. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to be back in 2 minutes. My phone, which I'm using to monitor the chat, is about to die, so I'm just going to go get my phone charger. I'll be back in like a minute. Okay, cool, I'm back. Bear with me a second while I get this all plugged in. There we go. Right. Hey, how you doing? Welcome, Dealer Umbra. Your episode of Wretched Cast is going live on Friday. Thank you for popping in. So where was I? Clubs is the next one. Wands. Wands represent your energy, motivation, and passion. Often appear in tarot readings about life purpose, spirituality, and new ideas. Okay. It's not really helping. Swords is thoughts, words, and action. And asserting your power. And Pentacles is finances, work, material, possession. Okay, we're going to take these very loosely. We're going to call Pentacles flesh. Nursing a headache at the moment. Oh man, that sucks. Hydrate. No, do you know what? Ignore me. I get headaches all the time. I hate when people try and tell me how to deal with headaches. You know how to deal with your headaches. I'm sure you will sort it, and I hope you're okay. Flesh. I was in the flow and then had to get up, and now I need to get back into that headspace. I think Pentacles is going to be a dark suit. Cool. Pentacles, flesh. Intrusions on your physical body. They might be examinations by the Inquisition in the course of their investigation, the ministrations of a torturer desperate for a confession, or memories of historic violations. When you draw a pentacle, you must deal with your loss of agency, with the fact that your body is no longer being treated as sacrosanct and yours. Terrible things will be done to you, may have already been done to you. How will you cope with them, and what effect will they have on your testimony? And while I was typing that, swords, thoughts, words, and action, and asserting your power, I think we're going to call swords the occult. Swords are the devil. Yeah, I think we're going to decide that you are a witch, or you have the potential to be a witch. It seems silly to write this game and not lean into it a little bit. But we'll make it an accusation, right? The devil, the diabolical creature you were accused of communing with. We need to deal with the topic, but the player can decide whether it's true or not. So that leaves us with, sorry, let me read that just in case I decide to turn this into a podcast. Swords are the devil, the diabolical creature you are accused of communing with. When you draw a card, you are delving into your past, examining whether the charges levelled against you are true or false. Swords cut to the heart of the matter. Quite happy with that sentence. Are you a witch, or are you falsely accused? If you are a witch, do your actions justify your death? So that leaves us with clubs, wands even, energy, motivation, fuck off. I think clubs needs to be deeds. Needs to be the actual. Is this the one where they compare you to a duck? Yes. If you are a duck and you float, you must be made of wood. Burn her. I'm not writing a Monty Python simulator. Deeds. Yeah, because we need to deal with the things that you're actually accused of doing, right? So, and things that you have done. There we go. Wands represent your deeds. When you draw a wand, you're being asked to remember and account for the things that you have done, the deeds that you are accused of, that have led you to this point. You may remember them, you may not. They may be real or invented. Either way, you must answer for them. Cool. So the next thing now, basically, we start writing the oracle. What I like to do with the oracles is, again, this is going back to me liking to have a structure, is I like to put the mechanical stuff in place first and write the prompts around it. So, like the Ace of Hearts, for example, and then the Kings do something as well. Ace of Hearts is the salvation mechanic, but hang on, let me just. This is society, right? Clubs, deeds, flesh, and the occult. I like to have the headers just there for when I'm writing them, so I don't have to scroll too far to remember what everything is. What was I saying? My mind's just gone blank. I was talking about the Ace of Hearts, right? I was having a thought process where I was going to say I might change the suit for the Ace of Hearts, but I can't remember what I was going to change it to. No, that is going to be the salvation mechanic, the Ace of Hearts. So because I think we will make the salvation mechanic be, the win condition is that you convince them that you're telling the truth, right? So that doesn't need to be bold. I wouldn't normally write a prompt yet. I'll get into what I was going to do, but I just had an idea, so one of the allegations against you is very specific, and you are able to provide an alibi that disproves it. What are you accused of, and who in the court can you point to and say, I was with them when this was meant to be taking place? Pull from the bag, do not discard this card. Place it to the side and place your 10 tokens on it. I'm going to make it 1 or... I'm going to make it a result of 1 rather than 6 because we're dealing with the devil and 1, snake eyes. You know what I mean. I'm not expressing myself very well, but... After writing each record, roll your die. On a result of 1, remove a token. Each token you remove represents another plea to those you love and a sign that maybe they are starting to believe you. Once all the tokens have been removed from the card, make a final pull from the bag. I need a better phrasing than if you do not pull the uniquely marked marker. But because I'm using tokens and markers, I want to differentiate between them. But again, this is something we'll come back to something we'll come back to in edit. The devil is certainly not associated with the number 6. Well, you're right, it is, but the salvation mechanic is us being innocent of having dealt with the devil. So yeah, one, I think one works actually. Oh, maybe we put in a mechanic where if you roll a 6, something else happens. Ooh. We'll come back to that, table that. Maybe every time you roll a 6, you make a note, and if you roll 3 sixes, something else happens. Oh, that's a fucking good idea. I'm going to physically write that down so it's in front of me. What happens on 3 sixes? Okay, I'm going to let that one gestate for a bit. Spelling, Chris. Cool. If you do not pull the uniquely marked marker, the weight of your evidence and the strength of your testimony has convinced the judge that you are innocent. Against all odds, you have survived an accusation of witchcraft, though your life and your relationship with those who accused you will forever be changed. Make a final entry in your record, then do with it what you will. You are free. Cool. So the next thing I'd like to do is put the actual physical mechanics in place, like the cards that make you draw and what the kings do. And then what I was planning to do, because we're using tarot cards, is go and look at the meaning of each individual tarot card and what it represents, and use that as a prompt to write the prompts for the game. So it's almost like playing a game to write a game. I just feel like that would really help the creative process a bit. But we'll see. If you roll 6s, the devil bails you out. Maybe if you roll 3 sixes, something weird and supernatural happens and it just really hurts your chances. But we'll come back to that. So this suit is hearts. So in Go Alone, excuse me, hearts pulls on every odd number. So I'm going to put these all in place because Go Alone mirrors the Wretched in terms of pulls. So I'm just going to drop these all in place as they are in those two games because it's just easier. And then all the face cards make you pull. I think the kings, because if you get 4 kings you lose as well. That's another fail condition. So I think we'll make the kings specific people with specific allegations about you and the things that you have done. We also don't discard the kings. You can't see me typing. There we go. Cool. So the 4 people come forward with specific allegations against you. and proof of those allegations. And if you get all four kings, the people are whipped up into such a frenzy that they don't even wait for the judge's decision. You're not going to get hanged, you're being burned at the stake. That's not how you spell that word. Cool. Draw from the bag, do not discard this card, place it where you can see it. If this is the fourth king you have drawn, the evidence against you is so great that the people who you once knew and loved are beginning to whip themselves into a frenzy, calling for you to be burned immediately rather than waiting for the hangman. They storm the court and seize you from custody, carrying you off to enact mob justice. Your trial is over and you have no opportunity to speak your final words or make an entry in your record. What will be done will be done. And I'm going to drop that into all of them. We may change that text. Like some of the, quite a few games have like, if like Matt's sealed library has different flavour text for each king if that's the fourth one. But for now that's fine. So next suit is clubs, which is deeds. Now, in Go Alone and the Wretched, clubs don't make you pull. But I feel like they should all make you pull in this one, because these are specific acts that are going to count against you, right? And the whole point of pulling from the bag is that the judge has had enough and has decided that you're guilty. So if we're talking about specific things that you've done, I feel like they should all count towards that judgment. Cool. But, so what we'll do with the ace... So the ace of spades, because that's what we've basically swapped it for in Go Alone, lets you replace a king. But I'm not going to do that in this game, because the kings are specific people with specific allegations, and replacing them just means that they might turn up again later, and that's weird narratively. So let's take the... I think the original club one was... Yeah, the next time you're told to pull from the tower, you may choose not to. So what we'll do is... we'll use that and we'll make it someone who was going to speak against you decides not to. And that'll probably be the only positive entry in wands. So diamonds also makes them all pull from the tower in the other games. Diamonds is acts of the flesh. I think that's quite fitting as well. This has also got the your salvation is slightly easier mechanic in it. Why would your salvation be easier with acts of the flesh? So this is the one where if you roll a 5 or a 6 you remove a token. So in this game it'd be a 1 or a 2 you remove a token. Draw from the bag. It is cups, isn't it? Instead of hearts. Yes. You may remove a token on a roll of 1 or 2. Flesh, we said, was a large part of this suit was the Inquisitors inspecting you. So yeah, let's say that they've examined you and they've found nothing. Cool. You have been examined by the Inquisitors. They spent hours poring over every inch of your body, prodding and probing and touching where few people have ever touched you before. They sought to mark some physical evidence that you have consorted with demons, but they found nothing and proclaimed you pure of flesh. Whose face did you watch in court when they announced that they had found nothing of note? Draw from the bag, do not discard this card, etc. Rolls of 1 and 2. So spades, the occult. See, so again, I feel like every card here should make you pull from the bag. It's going to be a shorter game if I do that. Also, what's... The Ace of Spades in Go Alone has you pull twice from the tower and return a king. We're not going to use that. We've used... Next time you're told to pull from the tower, you may choose not to. We've used the salvation thing, and we've used... Cool, I don't want this to be the only ace that doesn't do anything mechanical. May come back to that, because I don't want to return a king. It just doesn't make any sense. And I would be happy if like 2 aces didn't do anything, but to have 1 not do anything is weird. For now, we're just going to make you draw from the bag. But I feel like that ace should do something mechanical. And then I'm just going to make every other, again, this is another suit where every other card will make you draw. So the Wretched had one suit that didn't make you draw anything. That was Clubs, which was the crew, and that's because that was kind of dealing with, there was no danger there, you were just exploring your memories of the crew. But I think with every suit in this game, because of the nature of the game, there is danger going on. But I don't want it to be a super short game. So, oh, I know what this ace can do. It can literally make you put some of the markers back in the bag. Rather than returning a king, you return some markers to the bag. So your chances of drawing that marked one are reduced. I think I like that. Draw. So you don't draw from the bag at all. Roll your die and return that many markers to the bag. When you draw this, then discard. Discard as normal. So what can cause us to do that? Right, we're going to lean into the occult. We're going to talk about your familiar. Several years ago, a man came to you in the form of a large black dog and offered you power and influence if you served him. You see him now, a shadow standing beside the judge, whispering into his ear. What is his name? Cool. Right, that is all the mechanical stuff in place. So now we can start looking at what these prompts will be. And it's best, I find it best to just start from the top. So what was I going to do? I was going to look up the meanings of these cards, right? So I've already got this open in another tab. The Minor Arcana. We're on Cups. And I'm just going to click through them and see what they mean. So tarot cards generally have two meanings. One if they're pulled, what's the word I'm looking for? The right way up, and one if they're reversed. And the reversed, I think, tends to be less favourable. So we'll probably focus on the less favourable meanings because of the nature of the game. I sort of feel like we could build into the game different prompts for whether the cards come out the right way around or reverse, but then I'm writing 108 prompts, not 54, and trying to do this on stream is probably a silly idea. So I'm not going to read all these entries aloud. This card is about romance and sexual attraction, partnerships and unions. Reverse, this card indicates that pairing off to the exclusion of all the people and situations is happening. Unhealthy relationships that consume all one's energy need to be examined and a new course of action decided upon. So this is a card about relationships. We're in the society suit, so that fits. Because this isn't one that's going to make you draw from the bag, it's not necessarily anything too awful. So, a former lover tells tales of your most private moments in an attempt to discredit your character. Who are they and what do they say? Three of Cups. Joyful social contact. May also be rather superficial. Reverse the Three of Cups suggests that isolation from others is occurring. It is the time to take charge of the situation and to get out into the community. Consider joining a group or organisation, and if the need for support is present... Oh! Right, we're leaning into the idea that, yes, you have practiced some occult stuff, right? Because we know you've got a familiar, you've made a deal with the devil, potentially. The fun thing about this is we can write cards that lean heavily into, yes, you are a witch. Because not all players are going to draw them. So some players will play this game and they will never draw any of the cards that deal with the occult. And they will have a record that states this was an innocent person accused of witchcraft. Other people are going to draw all these cards about all this shit, horrible, awful things that you did, and they're going to have a record that says, I was a witch and I did do horrible things. And they're going to be very different games for different players, which is something I like. So, yeah, with this one, I think we're going to say... Consider joining a group or organisation, and if the need for support is present, seek out the necessary resources. Who taught you? Who taught you your craft? Are they still alive? I don't like pure yes or no questions, but I feel like there's enough there. One of the balances you have to strike with writing these prompts, in my opinion, is they have to be specific enough to drive a narrative, but vague enough for the player to make them their own. And that can be a hard balance to strike. I don't know what my point was there. But yeah, some of the prompts can be quite detailed, some of them can be quite vague, basically. So Four of Cups, we don't have a meaning here for the Four of Cups. Where's that other site? Upright, let's just jump straight down to reversed. A period of introspection and withdrawal. You're retreating into your own inner world so you can concentrate on what is integral to you and what grounds you. Others may want to spend time with you or invite you out, but you prefer to stay in, blah blah blah, blah etc. Cool. Even before the allegations, you have been withdrawn and had started to pull away from your friends and family. Why? We don't really need to overthink these too much. Five of Cups. The card carries the meaning of emotional dejection, disappointment and sorrow over past events. There may be a tendency to cry over spilt milk. It can also represent the failure to see the good in a given situation. Although the figure represented on the card has lost three of his cups, two still stand, yet he fails to appreciate what he has left. A river flows in front of the figure with a bridge leading to a safe destination, yet he remains focused on the loss of his cups. Cool. So this is about a chance for reconciliation that was ignored. So in reading about the Pendle witches and some of the actual witch trials, lots of the allegations arose because of petty squabbles. Um, people having a falling out and like saying things like "I hope you fall down dead," and then the person a week later having a stroke, and that being a sign of actual witchcraft rather than the person just having had a stroke. So I kind of want to lean into that aspect a bit. So 5 of Cups. The person who first accused you came to you for a favour in the weeks leading up to the allegations. You refused. What did they ask of you, and what did you say to them that you wish you could take back now? Like one of the, I almost want to not lean into, draw on some of um, the real things that happened, like with the Pendle witches. I'm trying to think of some specific examples now. My brain's just gone blank. I can't remember. It'll come to me, I'm sure. What are we up to? 6 of Cups. So stands for innocence and nostalgia, or being stuck in the past, naive and unrealistic. Time to look back to a simpler way of thinking. Unquestionable love is a more modern interpretation. A fixation on times which have passed. Something from your childhood that people thought was weird. As a child, you used to tell stories about an imaginary friend. What was their name? What is a specific memory you have of them? Cooking with gas now. Oh wow, okay, cool. Lots of symbolism and stuff here. What does it mean though? This card represents self-delusion, while others emphasize choice or temptation. The revelation of transcendental spiritual truths. Each head apparently has different meanings on this card. A period of clarity after a time of confusion. Long-held dreams or ambitions being overturned either for good or ill. How can we tie that into society? I might just ignore the meaning of that card. Yeah, let's go. Let's do something about you having an affair or something. What was the meaning of that one again? Yeah, so we've got stuff about like a potential lover. Evil, anger, envy, calamity, self-delusion. Okay. Again, I don't like true or false questions, but hopefully people expand on it a bit. Part of the evidence against you are stories of an illicit affair you were part of and how you tried in vain to convince them to leave their partner for you. Are these stories true? Draw from the bag. We can do more. More relationship stuff as well. Like, that's the thing. I'm using the actual meanings of the tarots to prompt ideas, but I'm not tied to it. You know, if you have an idea for a prompt, get it down. You had a relationship that ended badly and now they claim that you tried to bewitch them when they left you. What do they say you did? I feel like that could go under deeds as well. But it also, like, it's relationships, it fits with society, your relationships to the people in your community. So I'm alright with that. Okay, what's 9? What's the 9 of Cups? 9 of Cups. Having your wish fulfilled, achieving what you desire, obtaining your goal, getting what you think you want, having your dream come true. Oh wow, okay. Enjoying sensual pleasure, experiencing luxury. Let's lean into the sex. Because, let's be honest, men have always victimized women for being sexual and for seeking sexual pleasure outside of, like, independently of those specific men, right? You know, men get to sleep around, women have to be pure. Nonsense, but it's something we can draw on. Like, if a woman enjoys sex with multiple partners, she must be evil. It's bullshit, but it's good material for a game like this. Since the allegations, rumours have spread that you used your craft to bewitch multiple people into gratifying you sexually. Who started these rumours and why? What was I doing? I completely lost track again. Let's look at the 10 of Cups. Okay. Stuff about marriage. This all kind of works quite well. I mean, did I pick society because it worked with the theme of what this suit is? I can't even remember now. One of the most positive cards in the entire deck. Reversed, it can refer to quarrelling, violence, and a troubled heart. So what about a marriage that has ended and you're being blamed for it? A local woman complains that her marriage ended after she argued with you and you promised to tear her husband away from her in vengeance. What do you know about the real reasons for the relationship failing? Cool. So, for the face cards in this suit, I would like them to all be specific people because we're dealing with society. To do with your relationships with specific characters. The Page of Cups, a sweet-natured child. Powerful imagination and intuition. What's it been reversed? Do we see anything about it being reversed here? Reverse meaning bad news, immaturity, Disappointments regarding relationships. That's not how you spell enamored. That's an American spelling. A little bit of a stalker. Something I saw lots of men do with the women that I used to work with at the pub. A local boy became enamoured with you and repeatedly visited you at your workplace and waited outside your home for you. Did you discourage this behaviour or welcome it? Okay, what about the night? Let's go with someone who did you a favour. Because we're getting higher up the suits, we'll make it more directly related to like an allegation of witchcraft. A shopkeeper says he let you take food when you were hungry on the understanding that you would pay later and that you never did. When he challenged you, half his stock turned mouldy overnight. You have no memory of any of these events. How can you convince them of this? Them, the court. And one thing I want is someone else naming you in their testimony. Another local woman has been accused of witchcraft, and in her testimony she named you as the person who introduced her to the craft. What is your relationship with her? Cool. And then the kings, we said, were going to be specific people with specific allegations against you and proof. What's a very witchy thing that you could be accused of doing for the King of Cups? A mature, fair-haired man seated on a throne, holding a cup in his right hand. Okay. Doesn't really help. We know it's a man. A man tells... Ooh, okay, so the ace, we mentioned that you're familiar. Wait, did we? One of the aces we mentioned that you're familiar was a dog, so... So we'll tie it into society a little bit. This is what I was saying about some of the suits can cross over because we're dealing with deeds here. But a lot of the testimony is going to deal with deeds. A man tells a story of finding you alone in the woods with a large dog, chanting and burning letters from a former lover who later fell ill. He has the charred remains of the letter as proof. What were you doing? So that is all of the first suit written. That's all of Cups. I into the loo, and then we'll crack on with deeds because we're a quarter of the way through now. Back in a second. Okay, so while peeing, I had an idea. This ace that lets you return a marker to the card, we're going to change it slightly, and this is when you mentioned the sixes. What's the phrasing I've used for the other aces? Sorry. What's the phrase I used for... God damn it. Sorry, I'm trying to find a specific card. Place it where you can see it near the Ace of Cups if you're already drawn it. Cool. When you roll to remove tokens, Ace of Cups, and roll a 6, you may return a marker to the bag. Yeah, there we go. So, if you roll a 1, you remove a token from the Ace of Cups. If you've got the other ace, you roll a 1 or 2, you remove a token from the Ace of Cups. If you've got the Ace of Spades and you roll a 6, you replace a marker. You put a marker back in the bag. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And that will make the game go on for slightly longer as well, which I think sort of mitigates the varied probability. I obviously haven't done any probability maths about this at all, but yeah. So we're on to deeds. We've already written the ace. So what does the 2 of wands mean? That's not helpful. That's the entire suit of wands. Future planning, progress, decisions and discovery, personal goals, inner alignment, fear of the unknown, and lack of planning. Maybe we'll make all this suit. We'll do the alternating thing in this suit as well, maybe. We'll see. I don't like to just randomly, like, oh, this one makes you draw and this one doesn't. I like to be some pattern to it. Yeah, I think we'll have some that deal with actual physical things that you've done, and some that deal with like your internal mindset that don't necessarily come up during the trial. They're like character development stuff, so they won't make you pull from the bag. So everyone has a dream, a way in which the reality of their life doesn't match up to their desires. What have you longed for, and what have you done to try and make it happen? So there's no reason to draw from the bag for that one. But then we can have something like, you tried a minor spell out in the woods on your own, where you thought that nobody would see you. It didn't work, and there was a witness. What were you trying to do? So, yeah, we're leaning into the idea here that you have done some magic. So maybe, like I said at the beginning, there was a distinction between witches and cunning folk, and cunning folk were like folk healers, white witches. So maybe you were a cunning woman, and people came to you for healing and like minor spells and stuff, and it was only after whatever allegation kicked this all off that people started to fear you and want you gone, right? Maybe this is a chance to reflect on something you did to help someone. Before the allegations against you, you were known as a cunning woman, and people would come to you for remedies and cures. Remember a time that you helped heal someone who was dying? And then the opposite. So one of the Pendle witches had begged for pins from a man on the road. He refused her, she cursed him, and he fell down dead. And that was one of the bits of evidence. So let's just put that in the game. And I'm going to let the player decide whether that was actually their doing. I'm just going to check. I've just seen a Twitter notification pop up, so bear with me a second. Just want to check it's nothing like important. It's a DM, so. Just a group chat. Oh, where's the chat gone? Come back to me, chat. In fact, while I'm here, let's put another tweet out. Just this is enthralling viewing, I know. I wish I had two monitors so I could just do this without having to use my phone. Cool. Right, let's get that chat back. Where was I? 6. So, yeah, we can kind of alternate between helpful and harmful with these deeds. The helpful ones don't make you draw, and the harmful ones do, so. And we can blend some of the society stuff in here as well. Like the last suit was about relationships, and this touches on those relationships but with more specificity. That says recorded, not recovered. You squashed your beef, basically. So then 7, it's like, what caused this? Accusations of witchcraft rarely appear out of thin air. I mean, they do, but someone saw you doing something you shouldn't have been doing. What prompted this trial? But then maybe nobody would have made a specific allegation without there already being some rumours. Hey, Chromatic Chimera, how are you? Maybe there were already rumours before you were accused of being a witch. See, sometimes the prompts just kind of flow, and that means that I don't need to go and look at like what the meanings of all these individual tarot cards are to try and help. Hey Paul, how you doing? So, for people who are just joining us, Mike's a bit quiet. Oh, for God's sake. Cool, I'm probably a little bit far away from it. So for people who are just joining us, I'm writing a Wretched Alone game about witch trials. You are a witch, you've been accused of being a witch, and we're basically writing prompts to help form your testimony. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say that I have a Kickstarter launching tomorrow. If you haven't checked it out yet, go do so. I will be attempting to fund a second printing of The Wretched, the game that that this game is based on. So yeah, go do that. I'm sure everyone here has already, but just in case. So 9, this is one that's going to make you draw a token. So something concrete. What about an idol of some kind? You were found in the possession of a clay idol of a child stabbed through with pins. A local child recently died after complaining of pain in the spots where the pins pierced the idol. That's going to need some editing down. And you were accused of causing their death. Explain yourself. Okay, what if you've made promises that you can't? Yeah, let's go with that. Sorry, that wasn't a complete sentence, but you'll see. This one, this one's about me. You seem to have promised to do things for nearly everyone in the village, taking on far more than one person could do on their own. Are you making promises you don't intend to keep, or do you have supernatural help to get things done, or do you just have ADHD? Maybe you just got ADHD. Did that link actually send in chat? I don't think it did. I think I've actually been stopped from sending a link in my own goddamn chat. Or it's just not showing up on my phone. Who even knows? Anyway, let's not concern ourselves about that. Go to bit.ly/wretchedks Capital W. You can see it. Oh, cool. Just my phone being weird then. Right, so do we want specific people again? What's the page mean in this suit? Are we on ones? I think we're on ones, aren't we? Yeah. The messenger card. Highly likely that you will receive important news. Alright, let's flip that on its head then. And let's take it literally. I can't remember if I've already used a prompt like this. During your testimony, a messenger arrives from a nearby town with news that someone there has been accused of witchcraft and that they have named you as the person who introduced them to the craft, inducted them in the craft. Who are they, and what is their relationship to you? Sorry, I've got 800 notifications. Have I already used that one? This is why editing is important as well. Did I do that in the society prompts? Oh yeah, I've already used that one. Okay. So what does the messenger say? During your testimony, a messenger arrives from a nearby town. Okay. That's irritating. I was happy with that, but I've already written it. Okay, let's change it then. News that someone who you named as... Yeah, maybe you're the bearer of bad news. That could work. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Sorry about that, the door went. Messenger arrives from a nearby town with news that someone who you named as... Maybe someone who you were going to use as like an alibi or something has died. Yeah, like the opposite of that ace that we did where someone was going to testify against you and then they changed their mind. As who intended to testify in your favour has died in unusual circumstances. What? Who are they? That works for me. You've had to pass bad news to someone in your village. How do they take it out on you? That is a cool one, actually. That is a good one. Let me think about that. Knight of Wands, challenge, determination, foreign travel, leadership, and unpredictability. Oh, cool. So you went away for a bit and came back. The revealing of one's true self. Yeah, I know what this is. Can't type. This isn't a specific person, but I guess the specific person is you. Within the past year, you left the village for a period of a month or more with no explanation for where you were been. People say that you changed when you returned. Where did you go? Yeah, I like that one. I'm still thinking about the page, the bad news one. Oh, wow, this is a lot going on with this queen. Serviceable, hospitality, opposition, jealousy. Okay, this is someone that you worked for. A woman you had once worked for comes forward. She says that you had always been jealous of her money and that she dismissed you for stealing a dress. Afterwards, she found all of her clothes burned to ashes, whereas the dress she says you stole. And I want the king to be someone with evidence of magic you've worked, like tangible evidence that will be used against you. The King of Wands is an authority figure, honest and trustworthy, and a professional. What about a local priest? A local priest testifies that something supernatural that a priest would have evidence of. You no longer come to church. At last time you in the building, all of the communion wine turned sour. He produces some of the bad wine as evidence and attempts to make you drink it on the stand. Drink it in front of the judge. Why do you refuse? Like, perfectly reasonable to not want to drink sour wine, but you know, if you've been accused of being a witch. Local priest claims the dead rise from the town graveyard at night screaming your name. If he had actual evidence of that, this will be a very different game. I am still thinking about the messenger one, but I don't want to dwell on it too much because I want to, like, we're in a bit of a flow now. I want to kind of bang through these. So, flesh. We're going to lean into sex and stuff like that with flesh. And I think, again, was there a reason I didn't have these all make you pull from the bag? I've already forgotten the decisions that I made, but I think we're going to, again, alternate. It's the odd numbers that do this, though, not the evens. Chris. Okay. Flesh will be about sex and violence and torture. And unrealistic complaints from men. Let's go straight into it. Former lover has a litany of complaints about your sex life and the fact that you didn't satisfy him as much as he would have liked. He says that you were seeking physical gratification from dark forces, that you consorted with incubi rather than taking pleasure from him. What was the real reason your sex life floundered? What suit are we on again? Pentacles. Three of Pentacles. You know, you've been doing something for so long that your brain is starting to turn itself off, but I'm determined to get through this. Because we've made quite a lot of progress here. Sloppiness resulting in a lower quality outcome, lack of skill, banal ideas, and preoccupation with off-task concerns. Maybe I'll pop back to that one. What's the 4 mean? A lover of material wealth, one who hoards things of value with no prospect of sharing. When it is in reverse, it warns against the tendency of being a spendthrift. Okay. Maybe we'll make all of these ones make you draw from the bag. We'll come back to 3. I feel like there's something in the meaning of that card, but this one I have an idea for. After your arrest, your house was searched and a small stash of trinkets was found beneath the floorboards. They are items of value that belong to many of the people in the village. Where did they come from and what are you using them for? 3, something else physical. Ooh, okay. During your imprisonment in the dungeon. Wait, let's rephrase this. The jailers say that during your imprisonment in the dungeon, you seemed more comfortable and content than most people held there. Why did you not lose hope? Sorry, that's a very annoying noise that I'm making. Five of Pentacles. A grim and hard situation. This guy's on crutches. Oh, okay. I'm going to take the picture literally on this one. A few months ago, a child broke his leg and you were called to set the bone. It never healed properly. He walks with crutches now and his family say you sabotaged him as revenge against his father. What do they say was the reason for this? Yeah. Let's do sex for money. People lying about sex. Ooh, let's lean into some body horror. A man in the village has been telling tales of how he bedded you one night after drinking with you. He says that you demanded money from him afterwards and that when he refused to pay you, your body changed in some horrific way. What does he say happened? Let's grab a prompt from a meaning of a card again. Excess energy and personal resources used that can cause a strain. Feeling of giving too much of your time and resources with little reward or assurance of moving forward. The advice of the card is to reassess your commitment levels. That doesn't really help. We haven't done any like horrible torture stuff, and I don't want to get too nasty with it, but let's do something about that. The questioners take you back down into the dungeon where they work on you with tongs and pliers and hot metal until they are satisfied. What do you tell them that you wish you hadn't, and what part of your body is forever changed? Yeah, and let's get some like slightly gross witchy stuff. A coarse sack stained with old blood is found stuffed up your chimney. It is full of trophies, cat heads, rabbit paws, a dog's tongue. Who put them there? Okay, let's see what the 9 has to say for itself. An abundance of comforts, but no enthusiasm for it. Excess spending, being codependent, feeling lonely in personal pursuits. It's like difficulty finding satisfaction. Okay, let's take that literally as well, and let's do a sex one. Let's do an unreasonable man. Making a him problem a you problem. And let's literally be like, former lover says that he was never able to reach orgasm with you and that this is proof that you bewitched him. What response can you possibly offer to this claim? And let's throw your mother in there. What's your mother saying? Ooh. Your own mother comes forward to testify. She says that since you were born, she has never been able to carry another child to term. What does she say was unusual about your birth that made her fear you? Okay, what's the page saying? That's not helpful. Okay. These are specific people. Let's deal with the actual inquisitors. This is skirting the edge of like sexual assault stuff, and I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to go explicit with that. Hence, what do you do? An inquisitor comes to you overnight and offers to help make the charges disappear. If you will gratify him sexually, what do you do? And we literally won't go into any more detail than that. May even get rid of that one when I do a read through and an edit. We'll see. So that's a awful man. What about a torturer? Let's do something with these, because I think in the Wretched I did something. Yeah, with the diamonds, I did with all the face cards. Pull from the tower. Do not replace this block at the top of the tower. Remove it from the game instead, which actually makes the game easier, even though mentally it feels like it's making it harder. Because these are all going to be quite heavy topics, let's just change it up a little bit. Draw from the bag. If this marker is not the uniquely marked stone, you may return it to the bag. Just to differentiate every suit a little mechanically. Okay. So should we do a torturer? A torturer. What about one who's like stubborn and set in his ways, and he determined to extract the confession from you? The torturer seems to enjoy his work a little too much. You lose track of the time and of the things that you tell him. Which tool is he most fond of? And then we're going to bring your mother back again. So I quite like this one because we've already got a prompt about your mother where she's like disowned you, and if you've told that one already, as a player, your reaction to this one is going to be different than someone who hasn't had that first prompt about your mother. So this one says, your mother has been tortured into naming you as both a witch and her protege. She is devoid of her senses and on the precipice of death when she is brought before you, and you are told that if you confess, she might be helped back to health. How do you respond to this? And then the king, we need another person with a specific allegation. This one about your body and specific acts, I think. A farmer is that you there's that whole thing about you cursing like a flock of sheep. So what if he's saying that you brought a disease down on his flock, and what he's found is a lamb's skull wrapped up in a dress that everyone has seen you wearing? As evidence. Farmer testifies that you brought a curse down on his flock and that as a result all of his sheep are dead. He presents as evidence a lamb's skull wrapped in a dress everyone knows belong to you, smeared with blood and painted with, strange symbols. How did your clothing come to be in this state? Again, it's something that the wording will change in an edit. But we've just got the occult stuff left to do now. And we can probably just blast through these, like what's weird shit that you could be accused of doing, right? Someone testifies that they often saw you walking off into the woods at night, dressed in your bedclothes and moving as though still asleep. What were you doing out there in the dark? Let's change up which ones make you draw from the bag in this suit. One of your earliest memories is of one of your older siblings dying in unusual circumstances and you being blamed. What happened? Just gonna go through and change up the order of which ones make you pull from the bag on this suit, just because I feel like it. Cool. Number 4. There is a secret. In fact, let's make that one that I've just written be a pull from the bag, because this one that I'm thinking of now is one that people don't know about. So where is it and how did you find it? There's a secret place where you go to be alone, somewhere that you shouldn't be. Where is it and how did you find it? Your dreams have changed recently. They seem more real and portentous. What have you seen? A neighbour claims that they have seen strange lights flickering and moving inside your house at night. Lights unlike and heard inhuman noises. What is your explanation for this? Another draw from the bag one we'll take from the actual Pendle Witches. This is something that was actually used as evidence against the Pendle Witches. I can't remember the names of any of them now. I can't type either. I'm at that stage now where my brain is going faster than my fingers. I'm going to ask quite a lot of questions with this one. Oh, well, 2 questions. You attended a meeting and a feast at the home of a known witch on Good Friday when all good Christians should be in church. Why were you there? Will you name anybody else who was there to help mitigate your punishment? I'm thinking about the ones that would be like evidence now. Rather than just like things that wouldn't make you pull from the bag. Key piece of evidence against you concerns something that happened to your body while you were sleeping that you have no memory of. What do they say you did? Okay, so I've got a couple left to fill in here. Like private things, I guess. Things that wouldn't necessarily make you draw from the bag. When you pray at night, you hear a voice speaking back to you. Whose is it, and what do they say? One of the local children confided in you that their family's black goat often whispers to them. What do they say it? Did they tell you it says? That's a very direct reference to the witch, but I'm okay with that. So I think, because this is the occult suit, I think all 4 of these 3 at least, are going to deal directly with your familiar. So name your familiar. What form do they take? When did they first come to you? What did they offer? And did you immediately accept or initially refuse? There's quite a lot of questions there, but I'm okay with that. It's like a character building one. Let's go back to the black dog as well. So that one's accepting that you are a witch, but not everyone will draw it. I'm starting to lose my voice. I don't usually talk this much. Multiple people have come forward to tell tales of being accosted by a great black dog after arguing with you. They say that you have sent this beast against them as punishment. How do you respond to this? Two more to do with your familiar. Hmm. I'm trying to think of ideas now. Literally two more prompts to write. Maybe it doesn't have to all be about the familiar. I would like them to be, and the king again should be a specific person with a specific allegation. And tangible evidence. What's the king of? What suit are we on? I keep forgetting what suit I'm on. It's spades, right? King of swords. Pentacles, swords. King of swords. A mature man with sound intellectual understanding and reasoning. This card depicts a man who is strong-hearted, decisive, and intellectually oriented. The King of Swords can also depict a man who is ruthless or excessively judgmental. The querent is therefore advised. Oh, okay, this is the actual judge. Tells the court that he has been visited in the night by a creature claiming to be your familiar. Creature has shown him your name signed in the devil's book. He produces a sheet of paper with a signature on it. Yeah, so he's going to pull out like a page handwritten and signed by you. There's a contract with the devil that you can't read because fuck it, why not? The judge tells the court that he has been visited in the night by a creature claiming to be your familiar. This creature has shown him your name signed in the devil's book. He produces a long sheet of paper containing small, cramped handwriting and signed in blood that he claims is your contract with the devil. You cannot read it. How do you respond to this? Slightly ridiculous, but then aren't witch trials slightly ridiculous? And one more. One more. What's the Queen of Swords all about? Freedom of thought, intellect, self-protection. Ooh. Pristine white clouds and darker ones showing up in the bottom right corner like a coming storm. Thoughts into action. Okay, this is like the emotion card. Oh, why is this last one so hard? literally, I can't think of anything for this last prompt. What about something to do with like this is the occult suit, so we can get weird with it. As you are talking, the light in the court begins to fade, despite it being day. The windows begin to fill up with hundreds of ravens silently peering in on the proceedings. Is this your doing? Cool. That is all of the prompts for the game written. That's a game. The next thing I would write would be the debrief, which we can largely take from the Wretched. Right, we haven't asked the player to edit or expunge any records, so we'll get rid of that. Yeah, that's a game. That's a Wretched Alone game. I don't know how long I've been streaming for, I don't know how long that took, but that's done. Apart from that last section, which I guess we can write now. What's the Wretched say? And go alone. Do you know what? I think my brain is too fried to write that aftermath section right now. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call it because I'm quite hungry. Also, Gilgamesh 10, I only just spotted that you followed, so thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna call it there because that's the game. All I need to do is like give it an edit, write that last section, and get someone to look over it, just to check for content and stuff like that. And then I'll publish it. And I said I would make it available for free, so I will do that. Maybe I'll stream doing some layout for it this coming weekend. We'll see. So yeah, thanks for joining me. I hope that was useful for you. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. That's how I write a Wretched Alone game, basically. So yeah, the Kickstarter for the Wretched goes live tomorrow, I think about 5 p.m. UK time, but whenever I decide to set it live. So if you want to get the new printing of the Wretched in print, go check that out. Yeah, thank you for being here. I'm quite happy with that game, and hopefully I'll be able to grab the audio from this and upload it, edit it down and upload it as an episode of the Wretched Cast podcast. I'll try and get that out next week if I can. So thanks for being here, appreciate it, and have a great night. And I'll let you know when that game's out. Bye.